Tonight, the hostage rescue and its fallout. The Israeli celebration when 4 hostages held by Hamas since their October 7th attack returned to Israel, and the backlash after the operation that led to the freeing of those 4 hostages ended in bloodshed. The conflicting accounts over exactly how many civilians were killed in the raid and how both the U.S. and UN are now pressuring Hamas to agree to a ceasefire. Plus, the jury in the Hunter Biden gun trial begins deliberating the final moments of testimony in the courtroom today as Hunter Biden's attorney argued the government's case is a, quote, magician's trick and what it means for Joe Biden. Could Hunter Biden be the first child of a sitting president to be criminally convicted? We have the details. And
it was upwards of $400 a week.
I remember it essentially working out to net zero.
U.S. child care ranks among some of the highest costs for working families, and there does not seem to be any relief in sight. In tonight's Prime Focus, we report on the brewing child care crisis and the ripple effect it's having on the economy. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're following those stories and much more, including a big shakeup from Apple headquarters that's set to impact its 136 million active iPhone users after the company's CEO announced artificial intelligence features will be embedded into iPhones, iPads, and more. What it means for you as Apple gets into the AI race. Plus, a month before his sentencing, Donald Trump takes part in a probation interview, another presidential first. A passenger plane's nose ripped off and radar equipment exposed when it flies into a hailstorm. And the good economic news we're highlighting tonight, how women's employment has now hit a new record high when we take a look by the numbers. But we begin with dramatic new video from inside the Israeli raid to rescue 4 hostages held by Hamas since the October 7th attack. Sources tell ABC News Israeli special forces were disguised as Palestinian refugees looking for a place to live. Body camera video shows the Israeli officers shooting their way into a building where 3 male hostages were being held. Those hostages were found together, their terror clearly visible at the gunfire and chaos, not knowing who the armed intruders were. Tonight, a look at the faces of the 4 freed hostages who are now back with loved ones after more than 8 months in captivity. And it comes as the UN Security Council adopted a U.S. draft resolution hours ago urging Hamas to accept the latest ceasefire deal. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burge is in Tel Aviv tonight with more on the daring mission and what comes next.
In a hellish gun battle, this is the moment Israeli commandos stormed a residential building in Gaza in broad daylight. Breaching an apartment, finding those 3 male hostages. Shlomi Ziv on that bed, holding up his arms, shouting, "Look, look, they're here." The other 2 nearby. You see sheer terror in their faces, then shouting their names, Almog, Andrei, and a sudden explosion, frightening the hostages. An Israeli soldier telling them, "Everything's all right, we've come to rescue you, be calm." Then the dangerous escape, with bullets flying around them. You see 2 of the hostages running for their lives. Tonight, sources telling ABC News leading up to the raid, some Israeli special forces were disguised as Palestinian refugees looking for a place to live, lying in wait in position before they were given the go command Saturday morning. The IDF saying it launched airstrikes after its troops came under fire, those strikes taking a terrible toll. The Hamas-run health ministry saying at least 270 Palestinians were killed, but Israel disputing that, saying about 100 were killed. Munira, who lives nearby, pleading for peace.
We have hearts. We are a human being. We want peace to be all over the area.
The Israeli call sign when the hostages were freed, "We got the diamonds." Soldiers then escorting them onto a chopper with a high five before they were flown out of Gaza. The IDF also rescuing 26-year-old Noah Agamani from a separate apartment. You'll remember this video that shocked the world, showing Noah screaming, taken by terrorists on a motorcycle. Today, back in the arms of her dad and reunited with her mum, who has terminal cancer. Each relative cherishing the hugs after 8 months of agony for loved ones they feared they might never see again. Almog Mirjan's family almost in disbelief. Tragically, his father dying just hours before he was freed. A relative kissing the 22-year-old's head. And this from his mum.
Yesterday was my birthday, and my wish came true. I haven't stopped smiling since.
But she also told us there must be a deal with Hamas to get the other hostages out.
I slept all night with a smile. What a big relief. That's what I want to happen for all the families of the hostages.
Her emotion certainly palpable there. Tom Sufi-Burridge joins us now from Tel Aviv. Tom, U.S. Secretary Blinken met with Prime Minister Netanyahu today. What happened there?
Linsey, Secretary Blinken meeting with the Prime Minister, and it was pressed on a report that the US could be considering cutting its own, more limited deal with Hamas to bring home the 8 remaining American hostages still thought to be inside Gaza. Blinken not commenting on that, instead pointing to a ceasefire proposal that is already on the table. Linsey?
Tom Sufi-Burridge reporting from Israel. Thanks so much, Tom. Now to Delaware, where Hunter Biden's fate is in the hands of a jury. In closing arguments, prosecutors said the evidence is clear, showing that Hunter Biden knew he was using drugs and lied about it to unlawfully buy a gun in 2018, while the defense claimed the government's case is nothing more than a magician's trick. ABC senior national correspondent Terry Moran reports from the courthouse in Delaware.
Late today, the jury getting the case in Hunter Biden's trial. 6 men and 6 women will decide the fate of the president's son, who is facing 3 felony gun charges. As closing arguments began, Hunter Biden's friends and family packed into the first 3 rows of the courtroom, the First Lady attending the trial nearly every day. Prosecutor Leo Wise pointed them out. You may recognize some of them from the news or from the community, he told the jury. None of that matters, adding, no one is above the law. Prosecutors argued that Hunter Biden knew he was using drugs when he claimed to be drug-free on this federal background check form when he purchased a Colt handgun in 2018. They pointed to Hunter's own words about his addiction in his memoir, Beautiful Things.
I used my superpower, finding crack anytime, anywhere.
And the government pointed to hundreds of texts, including some Hunter sent to then-girlfriend Hallie Biden, his brother Beau's widow, in the 2 days after buying the gun, describing waiting for a dealer and sleeping on a car, smoking crack. There's my truth. Prosecutors told the jury to take the defendant's word for it. That's his truth. But defense attorney Abby Lowell argued no one saw Hunter Biden use drugs in the days surrounding the purchase of the gun. There was no actual witness, Lowell said, saying prosecutors don't have proof. And Hunter Biden's defense attorney also lasered in on the women in his life who testified about his drug use, pointing out that his ex-wife, they divorced in 2015, had no direct knowledge of the facts in this case, and that Hallie Biden got an immunity deal from prosecutors to testify. Lowell also railed against the prosecution's questioning of Hunter's daughter, Naomi, calling their cross-examination of her extraordinarily cruel. It's time to end this case, he concluded.
Terry Moran joins us now. So, Terry, what happens next, and what else could the jury be considering?
Linsey, the jurors deliberated for about an hour tonight before going home. They will resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And prosecutors say this should be a simple case for them, but they do have to consider 3 separate charges here and a defense, which asked the jurors to consider not only the prosecution's evidence of Hunter Biden's drug addictions, but an evidence presented that he was trying to get clean at this time and so wasn't lying when he bought that gun. Linsey?
Terry Moran from Wilmington, Delaware. Thanks so much, Terry. Joining us now for more is ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, thanks for joining us. So prosecutors said during closing arguments the jury could convict Hunter Biden alone on the testimony of his ex, who testified she saw him using drugs 2 weeks before the gun purchase. Do you agree? Is it that simple?
I disagree, because at the heart of this case, at least in my mind, is the falsification of the documents. On October 12th, when Hunter Biden went and filled out a document and told a federal firearm dealer, I am neither using nor am I addicted. Both of those questions are in the present tense. So if it's something he did 2 weeks ago, I don't see how that works. The analogy I've been using so far is me, for example, I give up alcohol for Lent. 2 weeks before Lent, I might have a beer or a glass of wine, but during it, I am no longer using. So I don't understand how that works in the prosecutor's mind.
We saw a large show of support for Hunter Biden, including the First Lady. The prosecutor referenced their presence, saying none of it mattered and that it wasn't evidence. What kind of influence do you think that has on the jury to have high-profile figures there in the gallery?
I think it gives the jury some pause, but the pause, it depends on where it falls, because for some, they're going to look at the Biden family as a positive family. For others, they may look at this as a form of pressure to say, hey, we're watching. I think it works for the prosecutor to say, especially in a state like Delaware, that you know the Bidens either from the media or from the community. Take that out of the equation and look solely at the facts. I think that's the appropriate way to go about it, though.
Let's talk about Hunter Biden's daughter, Naomi. The defense characterized the government's treatment of her as cruel, but the state said she was completely uncomfortable because she couldn't vouch for her father's sobriety. How much of a role is her testimony going to play in that deliberation room?
I think she plays a role, but I think she plays a role for both sides, both the prosecution and the defense. For the prosecution, they're going a much broader view at this case, that they're merely able to show a pattern, and therefore, within that 11-day window from October 12th to the 23rd, they are strongly suggesting that they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Hunter Biden either was using or was addicted. But for the defense, the argument, I think, is relatively strong to say no one has that evidence. There was no information or facts presented that in that window, Hunter Biden was either addicted or using. And I think what helps or maybe hurts to some degree is no one's actually given us a definition of what it means to be addicted. I mean, I think use is very clear, but if you were addicted and you were recovering, are you still addicted? Because I think for the defense, that's their argument.
Did you ever think that Hunter Biden was going to take this stand? Do you think that it was a mistake or a good decision for him not to?
I thought that Hunter Biden was going to take the stand, and then for the reason being that he's the only one that can say, this is what I was thinking when I wrote that down. And there's not a lot of evidence in my mind that can combat what he says. If he says, I went up there and this is what I define as use, this is what I define as addicted, and this is where I was in my treatment, I don't see any other witness who can combat that or push back on that. However, sometimes in a case like this, it's up to the defense to say, you know what, let the prosecutor prove the case. They can't prove it without my client, and him going on cross-examination may cause more damage than it's worth. I did think he was going to testify, but I think ultimately it's smart that he didn't.
If the president's son is convicted on all 3 counts, he faces up to 25 years in prison. Do you think it's possible that we could see Hunter Biden serve time behind bars?
I think it's possible that we can see him serve time, and I think it's far from the 25 years. That's the max sentence when you look at all 3 charges, 2 of them having a max of 10 years and 1 of them having 5. I think it's probably better to look at the fact that they don't have mandatory minimums, meaning that we can go as low as 0 amount of years or days in jail. And when you look at someone who has no criminal record, yes, he has an open tax case, the federal guidelines would have an individual like this possibly serving far less jail time. And then his defense attorneys can ask to go even below the guidelines. And so while he may serve jail time, I think it's unlikely, but it's still possible.
If you were a betting man, when do you think the jury comes back with a verdict?
The question they always ask. You know what? I'm going to throw it out there. I don't like to do it all the time because you might get wrong. I say after lunch tomorrow. I don't think that this is a very complicated case, but I also think the jury, if they're going to show it tomorrow, might as well get lunch. So I say tomorrow afternoon.
It seems like it often does happen after a meal. All right, Brian Buckmeyer, our thanks to you as always.
My pleasure.
Donald Trump met with a New York City probation officer today, just weeks ahead of his scheduled July 11th sentencing. The interview was a standard meeting with convicted felons, as ABC senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky explains.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump taking his next step as a convicted criminal, meeting for the first time with a probation officer before he's sentenced next month. The purpose of this meeting, which was conducted remotely, Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate, is to help the officer prepare a report with a sentencing recommendation for Judge Juan Merchan. Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. He has attacked the verdict and the judge over and over.
I just went through a rigged trial in New York with a highly conflicted, and I mean highly conflicted, judge, where there was no crime. It was made up, fabricated stuff.
No word on what Trump told the probation officer today, but her report to the judge must include Trump's own description of his crime, whether he accepts responsibility, and anything he wants to say about why he did it. Unlike most convicts, Trump was allowed to have an attorney with him for today's interview, which is generally intended to provide the judge with a more rounded picture of the person about to be sentenced, including their personal, financial, and professional history.
Aaron Katersky joins us now. Aaron, do we have any insight into how this interview went today?
We're told it was cordial, Lindsay, and it lasted only about a half an hour, just a little under 30 minutes. But Judge Juan Merchan already knows plenty about Donald Trump, whom he will sentence on July 11th. Lindsay, that's just 1 month from tomorrow.
Aaron Katersky for us. Thanks so much, Aaron. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office has released Rudy Giuliani's mugshot as part of the Arizona fake electors case. Giuliani pleaded not guilty during his arraignment last month. The judge granted the prosecution's request for Giuliani to have to travel to Arizona and be booked in person within 30 days, citing that the former New York City mayor had, quote, shown no intent to comply with legal process. There is a severe weather watch from the northern Rockies to parts of the southeast. Florida is bracing for up to 20 inches of tropical rain, and in the west, more record heat that will eventually head east. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is tracking it all for us. Hey, Ginger.
Hi there, Lindsay. So yes, we'll start with that imminent danger. That would be the damaging wind hazard, really, for the northern high plains, and then that little pocket in South Carolina and Georgia, so Savannah and Charleston both included. But I want your eye to then go to South Florida. Their big story the last couple weeks and even months has been excessive heat and being very dry. That is all about to change. They're going to cool down, which is welcome, but this water is going to come in the form of tropical moisture that is just going to inundate them. So south of Orlando, we're looking for more than a half foot in the next 7 days, but focus there on Fort Myers, Naples, just south of Tampa. 15 to 20 inches. That is a lot. I mean, more than a foot of rain to fall that quickly could certainly have some problems in some of the cities. Let's go ahead and focus then on the west, because we just got new excessive heat watches that now extend all the way to El Paso, Texas. But those excessive heat warnings and the heat advisories stretch all the way back into the Sacramento Valley. Las Vegas could break some records. That's why you see them circled in red there. Pueblo, Colorado, Albuquerque could go to 100, which would be a record on Thursday. And then finally, here in the Northeast, we could see our first 90 of the season in New York City. That would be by the end on Friday. And if we do it, that would be about 2 weeks beyond when it is average, because that's more like May 27th. So better late than never, and it looks like we get more heat even the following week. So summer is coming. Lindsay.
Wow, on the way with a vengeance. All right, Ginger Z, our thanks to you. Apple has introduced a new AI-generated system called Apple Intelligence, AI technology that will be used across all Apple devices and systems in partnership with OpenAI. New features will allow users to create photos using AI. Siri will also be able to respond to more questions and make it easier for users to find photos on their camera roll, like telling your device, find a photo of me on the beach wearing a Hawaiian shirt. In Apple's latest earnings report last month, Apple revealed that sales declined for some of its mainstay products. Smartphone sales dropped 10% over the past 3 months. Joining us now for more is CNET technology reporter Abrar Al-Hiti. Thank you so much for joining us. Why do you think Apple decided to make this announcement right now?
Apple likes to wait a little bit. It doesn't like to rush things. So even while a lot of these other companies are rushing kind of to push out their versions of AI platforms, Apple likes to take a minute to make sure that everything makes sense, that it's something people will want to use, that it's very thoughtful. So that's kind of what they've done here. This is the time for companies to release AI updates, but Apple didn't care about being first. They just wanted to be the most effective at releasing these updates.
Do you think that Apple felt, though, some heat, pressure to catch up with Google and Microsoft, who've already made substantial investments into AI?
Definitely. Part of this was a game of catch up, right? So if everyone else is releasing AI updates, it's Apple's turn to release AI updates. And really what their focus has been just, throughout the years has been, how do we make our rollout stand out? So we don't want to just match what everybody else does, but we want to stand out a little bit. So here, the approach that they seem to take is, this is AI for everybody, right? It's not just AI for people who are super into tech or who want to use AI to generate a novel or something. This is for people who want, it baked into their phones.
A two-part question for you here. The greatest potential and also the biggest concern with this new partnership.
The greatest potential here is to make AI something that everyday people don't feel intimidated by. And that's really, I think, what Apple does best, is introducing things that that work well with our day-to-day, whether it's prioritizing your notifications or helping you compose messages. The worst case scenario, that's applicable to anything related to AI. Things can get out of hand. There could be misinformation. Maybe people don't like getting texts that are generated by AI. You want something that's a little bit more human. So I think that's something a lot of companies have to keep in mind, is people don't want human creativity to be replaced.
And Apple has said that computer processing will be done on an iPhone as opposed to the cloud. But what would you say to users still worried about privacy and generative AI overall, now that it'll soon literally be in most people's pocket?
One of Apple's biggest concerns throughout the years has been privacy and security, and that's especially the case here. So they're going to have to keep emphasizing this point that all of your data is secure, whether it's processed on device or off device. That's just something they're going to have to keep honing in on, and hopefully that's something that consumers feel comforted by, but it really is one of the main talking points every year, but especially this year.
Will users have the option of not using this technology if they simply don't want it?
Yes, you should be able to opt out, which should provide people some comfort. And this is something that's only available on really the newest devices. So if you're on an older device, you'll still have some time before you feel like this is being kind of forced on you.
Can you just explain for people who are just trying to understand the connection, what this now means they'll be able to access just on their regular iPhone?
Yeah, this will kind of essentially amplify some of your day-to-day interactions with your phone. So for example, Siri is a little bit smarter now. So if you're asking Siri for something and you kind of stumble upon your words, it'll still understand what you're saying. You can generate custom images. You can use AI to compose messages. Really, the idea is to integrate it into features that you already use. So hopefully you won't even notice that AI is powering a lot of these apps that you use every single day.
Aurora Alhiti, we thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you for having me.
Firefighters battle a massive fire in Miami, the city's first 3-alarm blaze in 25 years. An apartment building went up in flames with firefighters rushing in to get people out and finding a building employee with a gunshot wound. ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Miami tonight.
Tonight, this massive inferno burning for hours at a 4-story apartment building near downtown Miami. Officials say they haven't battled one like it in decades.
A level 3 fire is something we haven't seen in 25 years in the city.
The calls coming in shortly after 8 a.m. today.
We got flames and smoke showing from the 3rd floor window. They need to put a jump line.
Dozens of units responding as heavy smoke filled the sky, the plumes visible for miles. Flames erupting from windows as the fire spread. At that chaotic scene, authorities finding a building worker with a gunshot wound to the torso outside. He was rushed to the hospital.
We have the suspect who fired the gun in custody and who we suspect intentionally started the fire.
That apartment building, home to mostly elderly residents. Firefighters carefully guiding some of them down ladders to safety.
We have rescued over 40 people that were in the building, and our firefighters have demonstrated a tremendous amount of heroism.
Quite a heroic effort there. Victor Oquendo joins us now from the scene. And Victor, what do we know about the people who were inside the building when the fire started?
Lindsay, everyone who was inside the building has been accounted for. So many hours later, and take a look behind me, firefighters are still spraying it down. Now city officials, the Red Cross, and the building's management company are working to help those displaced residents. Lindsay?
Glad to hear everybody made it out okay. Victor Oquendo, our thanks to you. The Biden administration has considered a major proposal that will give legal status to undocumented spouses of United States citizens. This proposal will protect the undocumented spouses from deportation and provide opportunities to access work permits. This comes days after President Biden announced executive action that bars migrants who seek asylum from crossing the border illegally. No final decision has been made yet by the Biden administration. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman and his wife are recovering after being involved in a 2-car crash over the weekend. Fetterman and his wife, Giselle Barreto Fetterman, were both evaluated at a local hospital out of an abundance of caution. The senator was treated for a bruised shoulder, according to his office. Both have been discharged. Police say Senator Fetterman was driving the car on a Maryland interstate when he struck the rear of the other vehicle. The crash is under investigation. And so much more to get to here on Prime tonight. Shocking damage to a passenger jet at the end of a flight. What caused the plane's nose to be ripped away? But next, it's one of the highest costs for working families in the U.S. We're talking about child care. But as the cost rises, the number of available providers is dropping. We take a look at the mounting child care crisis in our Prime Focus.
My mother raised 4 children by herself, so in a lot of ways, child care has been an issue since I myself was a child.
Finding people that want to work in this industry, knowing it's not the highest paying job, is a challenge. And so that's the hardest part with keeping quality staff, is that the pay isn't available for them.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
I experienced a lot of rejection, a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. I have my days where you gotta do whatever you can to crawl out of those dark holes. You're gonna feel lonely. There was a lot of personal stuff in my life that was really falling apart. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment. I feel like every pair of bell bottoms all come with a different story. 19 years old, pulling up to Nashville, I was terrified.
Not everybody makes it.
I was a fish out of water. At times, I was too country for country.
You were living in a trailer for a while.
I remember sitting out in this camper trailer, crying my eyes out, thinking, is it ever gonna happen? But Mom and Daddy didn't raise no quitter.
I have had the hardest 2 months of my life.
My daddy has not been doing well. We've been through a lot these past few years, and it kind of makes me emotional. Y'all gonna see me cry again. I was scrolling on TikTok. I noticed a few videos of my butt that had gone viral. At first, I was laughing, and I'm like, these people ain't right.
No matter what size you are beautiful.
Being a woman in country music can be tough.
And the CMA Award for Album of the Year for Female Vocalist of the Year.
Entertainer of the Year
goes to Lainey
Wilson.
That was a mic drop.
The Entertainer of the Year, baby.
Lainey's album, Bell Bottom Country, changed the game.
There ain't nothing better than this. Hold my beer, watch this.
What she is doing right now is changing country music.
I do see the bell bottoms and the hat as my superhero outfit.
Go, Lainey!
It's mind-blowing.
It's magic.
I'm proud of myself. I really am. I have worked my ass off. Now it's time to see what's next.
That's what I'm talking about. Woo!
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu.
Welcome back, everyone. Here in the U.S., childcare ranks among some of the highest costs for working families around the world. And as the amount of money required skyrockets, the number of providers has actually dropped. And that's having a massive ripple effect on the nation's economy as working parents' demand for childcare increases as nationwide staffing is dwindling. In tonight's Prime Focus, Elizabeth Schulze reports on the brewing childcare crisis.
My name is Jason West.
And my name is Jessica Morrison.
And then I put it in peas.
Our 9-year-old, her name is Lana, and she is in 3rd grade.
Oh, yeah.
You good? Travis is 5. He just turned 5. For my early childhood, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was able to work enough to support us.
My father passed away when I was young, so my mother raised 4 children by herself. So in a lot of ways, childcare has been an issue since I myself was a child.
As November's presidential election nears, Americans continue to grapple with inflation, a top concern for many voters.
Brutal 3.4 annual rate.
And where prices are notably high is in childcare. On average, families in the U.S. spend more than $11,000 on childcare per year. And families with 2 children spend more on childcare than they do on housing, college tuition, or transportation. Childcare facilities are also struggling, as many of them are family-owned and operated. The mother-daughter team of Joanne Sawicki-Luschek and her daughter Tiffany Martin own Teddy Bear College in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
I know that you can hear a mother-daughter dynamic working together every day, but working together, we don't have a lot of conflicts. We really get along well.
It's like taking your daughter to work every day. The fact that she wanted to take over the business and that she had the same passion is the most rewarding, and that she was able to take it to the next level to meet the needs and standards of today, which is so hard and challenging.
The challenges with running a facility are abundant, starting with paying workers a livable wage.
Finding people that want to work in this industry, knowing it's not the highest paying job, is a challenge. And so that's the hardest part with keeping quality staff, is that the pay isn't available for them.
While pay has increased for workers recently, the average hourly wage is still just under $15 an hour, or about $30,000 per year.
What the tuition brings in is what we have to pay. So if we raise tuition, we can give raises out. Well, there's a limit to that.
And that limit is what's stopping many families from enrolling their kids. About 45 minutes south in Seacane, Pennsylvania, the Wests have built a middle-class American life with 2 healthy kids, dogs, and a mortgage.
We are a 2-income household. It's just that he has gigs, that he can do. He's self-employed. We spend time together when we can, but we could all be sort of closer, I think, if we didn't have the childcare issue.
In 2019, right after the couple had purchased their home, Wes thought he had a line on a new job.
I actually applied for a job at UPS, if you remember that,
That's
right
right
before Christmas. And that is where Jess was looking into childcare at that time.
It was upwards of $400 a week.
I remember it essentially working out to net zero of having a child in childcare while working, and a normal job, having taxes taken out, so take-home pay.
Costs have only risen since the pre-pandemic days of 2019. Inflation now sits at 3.4%, while the cost of childcare is more than a half point higher at 4.1%.
Inflation has definitely affected us as far as our food costs. You figure we're feeding the children 2 snacks and a healthy lunch. Well, we all know food costs have gone up, so that makes it really difficult to still stay within our budget. It's not cheap, and it has been a struggle.
The families know that there's a reason why we need to raise the tuition, that we're not doing it because we're trying to increase profits. We're doing it because we need to sustain our program. We need to sustain our business.
One way states and the federal government have helped families in the past is a child tax credit, which Pennsylvania significantly expanded this year.
The child tax credit that became law in Pennsylvania in December basically tripled the child care tax credit for Pennsylvania taxpayers.
The state gave eligible families earning less than $43,000 a year with 2 or more children $2,100, and up to $1,200 for families who make higher than that threshold. Democratic State Representative Tina Davis was the main sponsor on the bipartisan bill.
Well, it just puts money in people's pockets, and when you put money in people's pockets, they're going to spend it. It's going to help small businesses, it's going to help the economy, and it's actually going to make them feel better about themselves.
It's a good idea. No party has a monopoly on good ideas. This is a direct way to benefit a lot of families.
They have expanded the child care tax credit. So that has helped families, but I feel like it doesn't answer the child care centers' issues.
These issues aren't exclusive to Pennsylvania. It's a nationwide problem impacting the country's bottom line.
The child tax credit I passed during the pandemic cut taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half.
Biden has made childcare and really caregiving as a whole a huge component of his overall domestic agenda. So he spearheaded something called Build Back Better a couple of years ago that included a number of key provisions like paid leave, like universal pre-K.
And for former President Donald Trump, he's so far steered clear of childcare on the campaign trail. But in 2018, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act doubled the child tax credit per child.
we nearly doubled the standard deduction and did double the child tax credit.
Pennsylvania, a state likely to be crucial in November's election, saw both parties work together to help families with young children. Can that progress continue nationally? It may depend on who becomes the next president.
Both sides should be considering childcare and the childcare cost and the families that it's impacting.
Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze. Still much more to get to here on Prime. Coming up, could it be a 1-2 punch in one vial? The results in a late-stage trial of Moderna's COVID-flu combination vaccine. But next, women are regaining their role in the workplace post-pandemic, but does it measure up to more than a decade ago? We're looking at female employment by the numbers.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters.
Is this our Combat Operations Center?
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions.
Operational nuclear reactor.
So you have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in it.
Not a tear in it.
How important is this label right here, Made in the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love this.
Great work.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you?
Appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you. Ismail? David.
David.
Yes, yes. I'm David Muir.
I know who you are.
You
Watch
do?
you every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast. This week, the best place to start your day is GMA.
This is awesome.
With Tony Hale live. Plus, get ready to say yes, chef, with the Bears' Iowa Debris.
Definitely.
And Super Chef Michael Simon cooking things up for Father's Day on GMA.
They call him the Beauty Queen Killer. He's targeting young women in malls.
I am single. I want to enjoy the company of a member of women.
He tortured me.
How did she survive 9 days of terror?
The word accomplice came up. Nobody knows the real story.
The Beauty Queen Killer. Only on Hulu.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who is in the Brat Pack. You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because it was time that we clear the air on a couple of things.
Whoa. I hated the Brat Pack for decades. What a disaster.
Why did we take it as an offense?
We're afraid we were brats, you know?
Andrew?
I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985, I think we could have.
Now streaming on Hulu.
I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi. The new special, What You Have Not Yet Seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu.
It's lunchtime in America, so what are we serving up?
Well, how about everything you need to know?
You know, that sounds pretty good.
Give it to me. Your health, your money, breaking news, pop culture, with the biggest stars, music, trends, and of course, good food. GMA 3, what you need to know. A third hour of GMA in the afternoon.
So join us, afternoons.
For everything you need to know. I love that.
Reporting from the Normandy coast for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. It's a remarkable comeback story for working women. Women have not only regained their pandemic losses in the job market, but they've been exceeding those numbers month after month. So tonight, as we mark this milestone, we take a look at female employment by the numbers. 76% of women between the ages of 25 to 54 were employed last month, according to new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a record high. A chief economist at ZipRecruiter points to a spike in employment in the child care sector, which she says allows more moms to work. Just how much of a spike? Government numbers show that child care employment added about 3,200 jobs in the month of April alone. While that's perhaps not enough to meet the demand, a UC Berkeley study shows that there's been close to a 22% jump in child care jobs since April of 2021. By comparison, the women's employment rate last month is only a smidge higher than it was nearly 25 years ago, when it was just shy of 75%. That's only about a 1% difference. And while there have been strides, of course, there's still work to be done. When it comes to equal pay, for example, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that as of last year, women were making about 84 cents for every dollar earned by men. And we still have much more ahead here on Prime tonight. An Olympic snub for one of the most watched basketball people on the planet. Caitlin Clark, the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, reacts to not making the 2024 Olympic team. From her breakout performance in the series Hacks to a starring role on the big screen, actor and comedian Megan Stalter joins us to talk about Cora Bora, the messy musician with a broken heart of gold.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland, from Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home? We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City. Splintered houses and splintered lives, and the magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Raleigh, North Carolina, the U.S. Capitol, Mayfield, Kentucky,
Minneapolis,
Mexico, Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen, giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live, streaming free right now wherever you stream your news.
If you could describe Diddy in one word, what would it be?
Mogul.
Powerful.
Hustler. Broken. And I feel like that's I feel kind saying that.
He definitely reached the mountaintop, and it seems like he's falling from it.
Disturbing video that shows Sean Diddy Combs kicking, shoving, and dragging his ex-girlfriend.
She was scared of him.
I think so.
Were you scared of him?
Yeah. My sense was that everybody around him was afraid of him.
Afraid of Sean Combs?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's explosive.
Diddy's Downfall, now streaming on Hulu.
All right, let the dogs out, please.
I don't think he's going to give you a hard time.
Even if he gives me a hard time, I'm the right guy. I want to make sure that we all learn together.
Calm, confident.
Calm, confident, calm, surrender.
Everything that he's taught has become a reality.
We are so grateful and impressed.
I feel like crying.
You changed our world.
It is a beautiful thing to see. As you rehabilitate the dog, you also rehabilitate you.
How do you feel?
Gay as hell.
I see you.
I love it here.
Is this real?
100%.
I think you still look at me that way.
Will you marry me?
I want pageantry that takes months and months to plan.
My girls have a
Hey, do you know a dad in desperate need of a style upgrade? Well, GMA's got you covered. For Father's Day, we're looking for an awesome dad to give the makeover of all makeovers. Scan the QR code or go to goodmorningamerica.com and tell us why a dad in your life deserves a brand new look. It's the Dad Do-Over, a Father's Day celebration on GMA.
Let's go.
We are heading into the unknown.
It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
A Passenger plane's nose ripped off and radar equipment exposed when it flies into a hailstorm. The major recall impacting hundreds of thousands of SUVs on the road. And a race car driver makes history and drives straight toward a future in F1. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
A hailstorm caused major damage to the nose and windscreen of a plane. The airline said the flight from Mallorca to Vienna got caught in a thunderstorm not visible on radar. Passengers said the chaos began with 20 minutes left, with the plane experiencing major shaking and being pelted by hail. Luckily, the plane landed safely with no injury. Moderna revealed promising results about the effectiveness of its combined COVID and flu vaccine. The company's late-stage trial results show the vaccine had a strong immune response in older adults, with levels similar to getting each shot separately. There's still several steps needed for the vaccine to be approved, with the FDA and CDC both needing to sign off on it.
Jamie Chadwick is an Indy Next winner!
Racer Jamie Chadwick became just the third woman to win an Indy Next event this weekend in Wisconsin. It's the first time since 2010 that a female driver has won at Indy Next, the last step on the ladder for drivers working their way up to IndyCar racing. Jamie spoke with ABC News Live recently about seeing more women in the sport.
In my opinion, there is no reason why it's so male-dominated. It shouldn't be. It can be a sport that is really open to all.
Chrysler is recalling more than 211,000 SUVs and pickup trucks in the U.S. because of a software problem. The recall covers certain Dodge Durango and Ram vehicles. The glitch could disable their electronic stability control systems. Chrysler said it was unaware of any injuries or accidents related to the issue so far.
4 people are recovering after a bull escaped from an arena during a packed rodeo event over the weekend. This video shows the chaos unfolding as the bull, named Party Bus, jumped an arena barrier and charged onto the rodeo grounds. Panicked attendees seen running for safety, the bull running over a garbage can and then charging a woman, flinging her into the air twice. Sisters Rodeo Association saying in a statement the bull was secured next to the livestock holding pens by our rodeo pickup men and immediately placed into a pen.
We are at Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and I'm so excited. We're getting a sneak peek and inside look at everything that this ride has to offer.
The new attraction, a musical journey throughout the Louisiana Bayou. The experience is chock full of special throwbacks to the film.
Hey, y'all! Let's get you to the party!
New fears for beachgoers as a string of shark attacks shut down Florida beaches this weekend, leaving multiple people seriously injured. Here's ABC's Faith Abube with the latest.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Harrowing new details after 3 people were injured in shark attacks along Florida's Panhandle. A teenager lost her hand and leg to what officials say was likely an 8-foot bull shark. Her mother describes the teen losing 2/3 of the blood in her body and undergoing several surgeries, saying when her daughter awoke, her first words to us were, "I made it." Another teen was also injured in that attack with wounds to her foot. And 90 minutes earlier, about 4 miles away, a woman suffered significant trauma leading to the amputation of her arm, prompting questions about why officials didn't close the beaches then.
We didn't see fit at the moment to close down the entire beach while we ground truthed and figured out what was really going on.
Farther down the Gulf Coast, this drone footage posted by See-Through Canoes shows hammerhead sharks alongside beachgoers in St. Petersburg. Elsewhere, a man bitten by a shark north of San Diego last Sunday required surgery. And on Friday, a woman bitten off Oahu in Hawaii was left in serious condition. If it seems shark attacks are happening more often, experts say protections established decades ago are helping populations rebound, and feeding habits are bringing them to beaches.
Warming water temperatures might influence the distribution of some of these species, but as far as they're coming close to shore, that's where they tend to feed.
Thanks to Andrew Dimbert there. Caitlin Clark, NCAA's all-time leading scorer in college basketball, man or woman, is now responding after she did not make the U.S. women's Olympic basketball team. It's a decision that has the sports world and beyond talking. Here's Janae Norman.
Clark, a deep one. You bet.
Basketball superstar Caitlin Clark speaking out after news broke that the #1 overall WNBA draft pick reportedly didn't make the cut to represent Team USA at the Summer Olympics.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. It's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there. And I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
With the U.S. women's Olympic basketball team roster set, Clark taking the apparent snub in stride, but others are calling foul.
I think obviously people are going to be fired up about Caitlin Clark not being on the team, especially Caitlin Clark fans that love Caitlin's game.
With many of the millions of new fans tuning into women's basketball because of Clark, critics say leaving the rookie out is a mistake.
This is her moment. This is the moment for women's basketball, not only in the U.S., but around the world. This is the opportunity to reach those girls around the world, just like the 1992 men's dream team did. And that's why this is such a missed opportunity.
This ex-post from head coach Cheryl Reeve ahead of the current WNBA season resurfacing, in which she used the hashtag "This is more than one player," which some interpreted as shade at Clark. Sources telling ESPN the selection team tapping 9 returning Olympians, including 5-time Olympian Diana Taurasi, perennial All-Star Brittany Griner, and arguably the best player in the league, A'ja Wilson.
This team will have 7 practices together before their first Olympic game. They need to have the experience that they've gotten over the course of the last couple of years, participating in different training sessions, participating in exhibition games. And again, through no fault of Caitlin's own, she simply doesn't have that experience yet.
The U.S. women's basketball teams are behemoths at the Olympics, winning 9 of the last 10 gold medals, including 7 in a row. Meanwhile, Clark says she'll be cheering on the red, white, and blue to bring home the gold.
I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way, maybe on the team, maybe not being on the team. So, I'm excited for them. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold.
Clark's Indiana Fever coach says that number 22 will use this as motivation in the future.
The thing she said was, "Hey, coach, they woke a monster," which I thought was awesome.
Our thanks to Janae. You likely know our next guest for her breakout performance as Kayla in the Emmy Award-winning series Hacks. Actor and comedian Megan Stalter now takes the lead in the queer rom-com Cora Bora, playing none other than Cora, a musician who puts her career on hold to return to her hometown of Portland, where she hopes to win back her girlfriend, only to discover that it's not just her love life that needs to be fixed. Let's take a look.
Honey, I'm back from war. Oh, you're Cora? Yeah. Are you the cleaning lady? Cora! I'll give you guys a minute.
We just seen still together.
Of course.
Who's that girl?
Just some chick.
And Meg Stalter, star of Cora Bora, joins us in studio with her sunglasses, no less.
Now I'm
and
putting
her
them up.
2 purses all ready to go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for letting me join you in a New York Minute to talk about this gay movie.
We have more than a New York Minute. We have several minutes, in fact, to talk about it. So, okay, Cora, really, her music career is stalling. Her love life is in shambles. What drew you to this character?
I think that first of all, a singer that's not that good is really fun to play. Even though I have an amazing voice, it was hard to say no to a role where I get to pull back some of my amazing singing talent and kind of play someone who's not that amazing of a musician. I loved that she's queer, and I love that she's sort of like having trouble being in a poly relationship, which I thought was fun because I definitely would never ever be able to let my partner be having a sexy dinner with someone that wasn't me, unless it was a wild night and it was all 3 of us. I would probably show up at the restaurant as the waiter and be like, "What the heck are you doing?" And also just everybody that made it so incredible. And I just, I'm so lucky.
You talked about how growing up you wish that you had seen more bisexual characters. How do you think that would have made a difference for you?
I think that it's when you're bi and you know, okay, I think guys are cute. It takes you longer to realize what you're into until you start really dating. So I think if I was younger and I saw a lot of more queer bi characters, maybe it would open my mind up to what do I like before I started dating. So I didn't know I was into women until I started dating, and I was kind of a late bloomer. If maybe I grew up seeing a lot of queer people on screen and a lot of bisexuals on screen, I'd be like more open to the idea. And so it took me longer to realize. I think even seeing what I have seen on screen has helped me.
Switching gears for a moment, a number of people know you from your role as Kayla on Hacks. And Kayla really started out kind of seeming like she was incompetent, but more recently seems like she's gotten her footing. Want to take a look at that?
Real quick, we are a great team because you think outside the box. Yes, inside that box are skills like calendar, texting the right person back, scheduling that you do not have a handle on at all, but that's okay because sometimes the most innovative visionaries struggle with executive functioning. You are not an assistant. You are a manager and a great one. So please stay here with me and be my partner.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought you were a man.
All right, so we talked a lot about Cora, but let's talk about your journey playing Kayla.
I think Kayla is somebody who loves Jimmy. He definitely matches her freak. And I think that over this series, we've been able to show more of that relationship and be, I think she started as someone who's like the wacky, crazy assistant who's really, really funny. But then the friendship that these two have throughout the show has been really fun to play. And I think season 3, we got to be kind of vulnerable. And I won't give any spoilers, but I might cry on screen at one point, which was really easy to do with Paul because we feel so connected on and off screen in a beautiful way.
The chemistry is very apparent, and he came on the show and talked about that dynamic as well. All the best to you, continued success, and we want to let our viewers know Cora Bora, starring Meg Stalter, is in theaters this Friday, June 14th, and you can catch all 3 seasons of Hacks on Max. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, Hunter Biden's federal gun case now in the hands of the jury. The last words from prosecutors to those jurors. Plus, a prison sentence for 3 soccer fans convicted of making racist insults against 2 players.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10th, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded to the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob. Hello. Judd? Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades. What a disaster. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said,
the movie!
Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah. Why did we take it as an offense? Well, as opposed to like a brat. Because we were young.
We were afraid we were brats, you know.
Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Don't you? Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what
entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985, I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
When it matters most, America turns to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight.
I experienced a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. You're gonna feel lonely. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment.
And the CMA Award for
Entertainer of the Year
goes to
Lainey Wilson.
That was a mic drop.
The Entertainer of the Year, baby.
I do see the bell bottoms and the hat as my superhero outfit.
Wild horses.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News live.
Good evening, everyone. This is ABC News Live Prime. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We have a lot of news to get to tonight, including the Israeli celebration when 4 hostages held by Hamas since their October 7th attack returned to Israel, and the backlash after the operation that led to the freeing of those 4 hostages ended in bloodshed. Plus, the jury in the Hunter Biden gun trial begins deliberating. The final moments of testimony in the courtroom today as Hunter Biden's attorney argued the government's case is a, quote, magician's trick, and what it means for Joe Biden. We have the details. And the tense moments as Ukrainian rescuers work to free a man trapped under rubble after Russian bombs hit Kharkiv, when we go around the world. But we do begin with dramatic new video from inside the Israeli raid to rescue 4 hostages held by Hamas since the October 7th attack. Sources tell ABC News Israeli special forces were disguised as Palestinian refugees looking for a place to live. Body camera video shows the Israeli officers shooting their way into a building where 3 male hostages were being held. Those hostages were found together, their terror clearly visible at the gunfire and chaos, not knowing who the armed intruders were. Tonight, a look at the faces of the 4 freed hostages who are now back with their loved ones after more than 8 months in captivity. And it comes as the UN Security Council adopted a U.S. draft resolution hours ago urging Hamas to accept the latest ceasefire deal. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burge is in Tel Aviv tonight with more on the daring mission and what comes next.
In a hellish gun battle, this is the moment Israeli commandos stormed a residential building in Gaza in broad daylight. Breaching an apartment, finding those 3 male hostages. Shlomi Ziv on that bed, holding up his arms, shouting, "Look, look, they're here." The other 2 nearby. You see sheer terror in their faces, then shouting their names, Almog, Andrei, and a sudden explosion, frightening the hostages. An Israeli soldier telling them, "Everything's all right, we've come to rescue you, be calm." Then the dangerous escape with bullets flying around them. You see 2 of the hostages running for their lives. Tonight, sources telling ABC News leading up to the raid, some Israeli special forces were disguised as Palestinian refugees looking for a place to live, lying in wait in position before they were given the go command Saturday morning. The IDF saying it launched airstrikes after its troops came under fire, those strikes taking a terrible toll. The Hamas-run health ministry saying at least 270 Palestinians were killed, but Israel disputing that, saying about 100 were killed. Munira, who lives nearby, pleading for peace.
We have hearts. We are a human being. We want peace to be all over the area.
The Israeli call sign when the hostages were freed, "We got the diamonds." Soldiers then escorting them onto a chopper with a high five before they were flown out of Gaza. The IDF also rescuing 26-year-old Noah Agamani from a separate apartment. You'll remember this video that shocked the world, showing Noah screaming, taken by terrorists on a motorcycle. Today, back in the arms of her dad, each relative cherishing the hugs after 8 months of agony for loved ones they feared they might never see again. Almog Mirjan's family almost in disbelief. Tragically, his father dying just hours before he was freed. A relative kissing the 22-year-old's head. And this from his mum.
Yesterday was my birthday, and my wish came true. I haven't stopped smiling since.
But she also told us there must be a deal with Hamas to get the other hostages out.
I slept all night with a smile. What a big relief. That's what I want to happen for all the families of the hostages.
Her emotion palpable there. Thanks to Tom for that. Now to Delaware, where Hunter Biden's fate is in the hands of a jury. In closing arguments, prosecutors said the evidence is clear, showing that Hunter Biden knew he was using drugs and lied about it to unlawfully buy a gun in 2018, while the defense claimed the government's case is nothing more than a magician's trick. ABC senior national correspondent Terry Moran reports from the courthouse.
Late today, the jury getting the case in Hunter Biden's trial. 6 men and 6 women will decide the fate of the president's son, who is facing 3 felony gun charges. As closing arguments began, Hunter Biden's friends and family packed into the first 3 rows of the courtroom, the first lady attending the trial nearly every day. Prosecutor Leo Wise pointed them out. You may recognize some of them from the news or from the community, he told the jury. None of that matters, adding, no one is above the law. Prosecutors argued that Hunter Biden knew he was using drugs when he claimed to be drug-free on this federal background check form when he purchased a Colt handgun in 2018. They pointed to Hunter's own words about his addiction in his memoir, Beautiful Things.
I used my superpower, finding crack anytime, anywhere.
And the government pointed to hundreds of texts, including some Hunter sent to then-girlfriend Hallie Biden, his brother Beau's widow, in the 2 days after buying the gun, describing waiting for a dealer and sleeping on a car, smoking crack. There's my truth. Prosecutors told the jury to take the defendant's word for it. That's his truth. But defense attorney Abby Lowell argued no one saw Hunter Biden use drugs in the days surrounding the purchase of the gun. There was no actual witness, Lowell said, saying prosecutors don't have proof. And Hunter Biden's defense attorney also lasered in on the women in his life who testified about his drug use, pointing out that his ex-wife, they divorced in 2015, had no direct knowledge of the facts in this case, and that Hallie Biden got an immunity deal from prosecutors to testify. Lowell also railed against the prosecution's questioning of Hunter's daughter, Naomi, calling their cross-examination of her extraordinarily cruel. It's time to end this case, he concluded.
Our thanks to Terry. Donald Trump met with a New York City probation officer today, just weeks ahead of his scheduled July 11th sentencing. The interview was a standard meeting with convicted felons, as ABC senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky explains.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump taking his next step as a convicted criminal, meeting for the first time with a probation officer before he's sentenced next month. The purpose of this meeting, which was conducted remotely, Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate, is to help the officer prepare a report with a sentencing recommendation for Judge Juan Merchan. Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. He has attacked the verdict and the judge over and over.
I just went through a rigged trial in New York with a highly conflicted, and I mean highly conflicted, judge, where there was no crime. It was made up, fabricated stuff.
No word on what Trump told the probation officer today, but her report to the judge must include Trump's own description of his crime, whether he accepts responsibility, and anything he wants to say about why he did it. Unlike most convicts, Trump was allowed to have an attorney with him for today's interview, which is generally intended to provide the judge with a more rounded picture of the person about to be sentenced, including their personal, financial, and professional history.
Our thanks to Aaron Katersky. There is a severe weather watch from the northern Rockies to parts of the southeast. Florida is bracing for up to 20 inches of tropical rain, and in the west, more record heat that will eventually head east. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is tracking it all for us. Hey, Ginger.
Hi there, Lindsay. So yes, we'll start with that imminent danger. That would be the damaging wind hazard, really, for the northern high plains, and then that little pocket in South Carolina and Georgia, so Savannah and Charleston both included. But I want your eye to then go to South Florida. Their big story the last couple weeks and even months has been excessive heat and being very dry. That is all about to change. They're going to cool down, which is welcome, but this water is going to come in the form of tropical moisture that is just going to inundate them. So south of Orlando, we're looking for more than a half foot in the next 7 days, but focus there on Fort Myers, Naples, just south of Tampa. 15 to 20 inches. That is a lot. I mean, more than a foot of rain to fall that quickly could certainly have some problems in some of the cities. Let's go ahead and focus then on the west, because we just got new excessive heat watches that now extend all the way to El Paso, Texas. But those excessive heat warnings and the heat advisories stretch all the way back into the Sacramento Valley. Las Vegas could break some records. That's why you see them circled in red there. Pueblo, Colorado, Albuquerque could go to 100, which would be a record on Thursday. And then finally, here in the Northeast, we could see our first 90 of the season in New York City. That would be by the end on Friday. And if we do it, that would be about 2 weeks beyond when it is average, because that's more like May 27th. So better late than never, and it looks like we get more heat even the following week. So summer is coming. Linsey.
Wow, on the way with a vengeance. All right, Ginger Z, our thanks to you. Now to the shocking damage to a passenger plane after it flew into a hailstorm. Trevor Ault reports.
Tonight, these stunning images showing the extreme damage a hailstorm caused to an Austrian Airlines plane. Part of the nose missing, the cockpit windows smashed, radar equipment left exposed.
The plane shook very heavily. It felt like a really strong thunderstorm. Actually the strongest that I've ever been into.
Austrian Airlines says the aircraft encountered a thunderstorm during approach, which the crew said was not visible on the weather radar. 179 people were on board the flight from Palma de Mallorca, Spain to Vienna, Austria. The plane hitting that severe turbulence, then pelted with hail, the crew making a Mayday distress call. Marcus, a passenger on board, taking these photos after landing in Vienna.
The landing was quite rough. We didn't know that the window was broken or anything else.
The airline telling us tonight all this damage was done in just a few seconds of hail. And thankfully, no passengers were harmed.
Really remarkable. Our thanks to Trevor. Dramatic video shows a bull at a crowded rodeo jumping a barrier and barreling into spectators, even flipping a woman in the air. ABC's Kana Whitworth has the details.
New video tonight showing the chaotic moments after a bull jumps a barrier at a packed rodeo in Oregon, charging towards spectators.
We have another victim from the bull.
Trampled a couple of people. The bull, named Party Bus, striking a man before racing toward the concession stands where it flipped a woman in the air. The announcer telling attendees to get to higher ground.
Multiple people had gone under risers. They had tried to get in the bleachers, like gone inside the porta potties, gone inside the concession stands.
The bull seen here running around the ring, moments later leaping that barricade. Multiple people recovering tonight. The Sisters Rodeo saying in a statement the incident occurred during the final section of the bull riding event, and the bull was secured by rodeo pickup men and immediately placed into a pen.
Scary moments there, thanks to Kana. Still much more to get to tonight. Coming up, our conversation with veteran political strategist and author Luis Miranda Jr. Plus, it's a sweet, one-of-a-kind adventure going inside the Paddington Bear experience.
I'm Anthony Mackie. Like most fishermen, sharks used to terrify me. If the shark gets too close, I should hit it in the nose.
Well, you don't need to hit it.
I'm on a quest to find out why these apex predators, that's amazing, are swiping fishermen's hard-earned catches. What? You saw that? Shark Beach with Anthony Mackie.
Woo! That's our fish. Look at that.
Part of the sharkiest 4-week celebration this summer. Shark Fest starts June 30th at 9 on National Geographic.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. Now streaming on Hulu.
I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi, the new special, what you have not yet seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu. Here's to Good Mornings in America.
Can you feel the love? Oh, yeah.
Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness, joyous surprises, and so much fun.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Start your day with Good Morning America's Ray of Sunshine, highlighting the best of America and helping
make dreams come true. Wow. I'm just so happy. It's so good.
Get ready to smile and put the good into your morning, America, because
you know what will make the morning better? A little ray of sunshine.
I'm Matt Rivers, traveling with the U.S. Secretary of State in Beijing, China. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. Video shows the tense moments as Ukrainian rescuers work to free a man trapped under rubble after Russian bombs hit Kyiv. The strikes hit 3 locations in the city, injuring 8 people. After about an hour, first responders were able to get the man out and transported to the hospital. Russian strikes against Kyiv have become more intense in recent months. In Spain, 3 soccer fans were sentenced to 8 months in prison for making racist insults against Real Madrid player Vinicius Jr. Court officials say the defendants insulted the Brazilian athlete in May of last year with shouts, gestures, and chants referring to the color of his skin. In Spain, prison sentences of less than 2 years for nonviolent crimes rarely require those without previous convictions to actually serve jail time. Fans of the Paddington Bear books and films can step into his marmalade-loving world with a new immersive experience in London. Guests are taken on a journey starting from Paddington train station and across other sites in London to the famed Bear's home. There you'll help the bear prepare what else but his favorite snack, a marmalade sandwich. Our next guest is a veteran political strategist, philanthropist, community organizer, father, and proud Boricua. He is a force of nature who has significantly influenced American politics and draws community action with far-reaching effects across local, state, and national arenas. Luis Miranda Jr. joins us now in studio to talk about his journey in Relentless, my story of the Latino spirit that is transforming America. Welcome, Luis. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So you start in the book as a 19-year-old coming to New York City with your green suitcase in hand, and you talk specifically about how it only takes one person, their influence, who can change your life forever. Talk to me about who some of those people were for you.
Probably the person who changed my life initially was my boss at Aspira of New York. I need a job right away. I end up at the doorsteps of Aspira, which is a Puerto Rican organization helping young people with education at that point. We're talking about the 70s. And she gives me a job. And I begin dealing with the battles of bilingual education and open admissions and special education for bilingual kids. And then the other big person in my life who changed the trajectory of what I did was former Mayor Ed Koch.
You go on to work for nonprofits, you do political strategy for the likes of Chuck Schumer or Hillary Clinton.
And you know, it's just luck and opportunity and my talent.
Some skill, yeah.
But, you know, my first campaign is Chuck Schumer. What are the chances that my first campaign is someone who will end up to do great things? But I knew I have a good sense of people.
And you talk a lot about family in the book. I'm curious how your own family dynamic, how that shapes your political perspective, your drive, your ambition.
It started with my parents. We were always involved in some civic engagement in the small town. So coming to New York was no different. But now the stage, it's bigger. And my family, it's involved in all of that. My son, Lin-Manuel, says that most kids have a newspaper route. He had to knock at doors and register people in Washington Heights. Everyone is involved in the family business. Politics was our family business. Everyone is involved in it.
And you mentioned your son, Lin-Manuel, who obviously went on to create Hamilton, a little-known Broadway play, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think that upbringing and that familial, that Latino spirit that you talk about, how did what you poured into him and that family dynamic ultimately, do you think changed his trajectory in life?
He was always destined to the arts. You could see this tiny little boy destined for the arts. But his first big show where he got the first Tony, it's in the Heights. He wrote about what he knew, Latino families, immigrant families in his neighborhood.
We've been talking about Latinos and politics and the intersectionality there with regard to a shift that we've been seeing where more Latino men are deciding maybe the Democratic Party has been taking me for granted. Maybe that's not the party for me. More people have been leaning more toward Donald Trump. Why do you think that shift is taking place?
I don't think that is true. I think the assumption is incorrect. What is happening, it's that people, Latinos in particular, and men in particularly, are beginning to take a second look at Biden. So at this point, Biden is running against Biden. Because if you look at Latino polls, not a poll where we're 8% of the total number of subjects, what you see is that Biden's support has dropped. But Trump's support continues to be in the low 30s, which is what he got in the general election.
Oh, so you say it's not that more people are going toward Republican, they're just maybe walking away from Biden.
They're just taking a look and say, wait, is this guy doing what he said he was going to do? So, and what happens in politics, you're running against your ideal self. I believe that as the election gets closer and people take a look, because then you have to vote for one or the other, people will come back to Biden.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Luis Miranda, we thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to let our viewers know Relentless, my story of the Latino spirit that is transforming America, is now available wherever books are sold. And still to come, from Fortnite to a top-streamed artist, our conversation with singer-songwriter David on his whirlwind rise to fame.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news, ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting across the globe. Keep streaming with ABC News Live. This week, the best place to start your day is GMA with Tony Hale and the Bears' Iowa Debris. Plus, Michael Simon cooking things up for Father's Day on GMA.
If you could describe Diddy in one word, what would it be?
Mogul.
Powerful.
Hustler. Broken. And I feel like that's I feel kind saying that.
Federal investigators raiding 2 homes owned by hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Disturbing video that shows Sean Diddy Combs kicking, shoving, and dragging his ex-girlfriend.
She was scared of him.
I think so.
Were you scared of him?
Yeah. My sense was that everybody around him was afraid of him.
Afraid of Sean Combs?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's explosive.
Diddy's downfall. This is Impact by Nightline.
He definitely reached the mountaintop, and it seems like he's falling from it.
Now streaming on Hulu.
They call him the Beauty Queen Killer. He's targeting young women in malls.
I am single. I want to enjoy the company of a member of women.
He tortured me.
How did she survive 9 days of terror?
The word accomplice came up.
Nobody knows the real story.
The Beauty Queen Killer. Only on Hulu.
Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Shohei Ohtani, legends of the game. But now the list of greats redefined. From ABC News, Reclaim the Forgotten League. A side of the story of baseball you have never heard before like this. The award-winning podcast is back. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or scan the QR codes you see here.
Let's go.
We are heading into the unknown.
It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
The past few years have certainly been a whirlwind for our next guest, from recording music on his phone in his sister's closet to reaching more than 1 billion streams on Spotify to releasing his debut EP, Petals to Thorns, spelled D4VD. David doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Let's take a listen to his latest hit, Feel It.
Don't leave.
And David joins us now. Welcome, David. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you've said that you realized your passion for creating music by playing video games. How so?
I mean, I've been playing video games my entire life, kind of been like my lifelong goal to become a professional gamer and not have to go to college, like my mom said. But one day I was getting copyright strikes on every one of my Fortnite, Call of Duty videos on YouTube. And I went to my mom and I was like, I'm not making money anymore. I'm gonna have to go to college after all. What can I do? And she was like, how about you make your own song and put it in your videos? And I was like, I probably can do that. So the next day I went online, I searched up how to make music on your iPhone, and this app called BandLab comes up, and I record every song since then in my little sister's closet on my iPhone. Yeah.
That is really phenomenal, and it's taken off in such a short amount of time. That song that we just heard, Feel It, that now actually is the soundtrack of an animated series called Invincible. Yeah. And so when you think about just, you know, really from your sister's closet to the big screen, going from one medium to the other, how do you process all that?
I mean, I'm still processing it. I feel like things happen so quickly. I mean, the success has kind of been quite literally overnight, so it's kind of hard to kind of be in the moment sometimes, but I'm just taking it in slowly, appreciating it.
You've said that your music can be described more as a mood than a genre.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like relatability is like the universal language of music, and if you can relate to somebody, then the music touches them in a way that, you know, something that isn't as personal feels. So I try to like make songs feel super DIY. You can hear the imperfections in the notes I'm hitting, and it feels very, very, very simplified because I want people to think that and believe that they can make that same song if they wanted to as well. So.
My House Is Not a Home, that's the name of your tour. Where'd you come up with that name from?
It's one of my singles that I'm dropping as a lead up to my debut album. It's like this ballad that kind of talks about my life moving from Houston to LA and kind of what I'm being surrounded by and the influences that are, you know, taking place and stuff like that. Missing my family, missing my siblings and stuff like that. So I named the whole tour as I'm traveling, My House Is Not a Home.
And I imagine you're still trying to get used to this, right? The touring.
Yeah.
When we're talking about your first EP that you did, again, we talked about just 2 years ago, you did it entirely on your iPhone.
I did, yeah, I did. It's crazy.
And so now, do you actually go into a studio and you have a lot of instruments and access that you're incorporating?
Yeah, I do both. I mean, like, I never want to lose that part and that magic of being DIY, like doing it myself, but I have like gotten used to being in the room with producers and kind of crafting the instrumentals that I'm working on with everybody, so it's a collaborative effort. But I still find the time to go back to Houston and, you know, hop in the closet with my phone and just go crazy.
You still go in your sister's closet?
I still do it to this day,
All right, what's next for you?
I think I'm gonna finish this tour, and I gotta finish my album, and then I'm gonna release the album and see what happens next. Leave it up to the fans.
Who knows? I mean, in another 2 years, big things.
I'm already 5 tours in and 2 projects in. It's about to get crazier. Yeah.
Really phenomenal stuff, David. Thank you so much for coming by. I want to let our viewers know you can listen to his EPs, Petals to Thorns and The Lost Petals, out now, or you can catch them on tour. Tickets are now available. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Linsey Davis. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, the ABC News app, and, of course, on abcnews.com. The news never stops. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest